Well, howdy there, folks. Welcome into today's video. Very difficult subject to discuss in this one here today, folks. One of the most difficult subjects to usually talk about as a long-term investor in companies, and it's when to sell a stock, right? And I'm going to take you through a stock that I'm considering selling. I have not made my final decision yet, but I'm strongly considering selling this stock. And it's a very, very difficult decision. This is a great company. It's one of the best companies in the world, but I might have to make a very tough decision to sell this stock. And I'm going to let you know what are the reasons behind this, because there's just so many things that look like they're going to be major headwinds for this company. And I'm also going to let you know where I would put that money. There's two stocks specifically that I'd be looking to move that money into. And I know this is a subject that a lot of people always want me to talk about, because I always talk about buying stocks, and I'm buying this stock, buying that stock, right? And as a long-term investor, like most of the time, 95% of the time, if not 99% of the time, you're going to be placing buy orders, right? Because as a long-term investor, you're not usually looking to sell. So it's not very often I ever even get to discuss this subject, but I know for a lot of you guys out there, right? You have a portfolio of 10, 15, 20 stocks, and sometimes you look at your portfolio and like, is this really, should I have the money here versus another stock, and those sorts of things? So yeah, difficult subject obviously to discuss today, selling, definitely strongly considering selling the stock. And I appreciate everybody joining me as always. Thanks for being subscribed here. Tomorrow is the big day, folks. Tomorrow is the big day that I buy new stocks in the Patreon portfolio. If you're looking for access to that, check out the pinned comment down there and you get to see all the buys and sells I ever make in that portfolio there, okay? Now, before we get into the stock I'm thinking about selling here and why I'm thinking about selling it in the stocks I would be looking to put the money into if I do make this decision, I wanted to show you guys just a few things very important here, okay, on kind of past crashes in the stock market. And I was thinking about making a full video about this, but I was like, no, I need to talk about this for like 2 minutes and I can kind of explain this, right? And it's kind of nice to see where the market's kind of gone over time, and specifically I like to look at the NASDAQ here, okay? And if you notice here, in the 2022, let's call it the Fed crash, we basically rewound the stock market about 2.5 years, right? From where we hit that low in the fall time to back here in the, this was around summer of 2020. We basically rewound the stock market 2.5 years. We fell back to, right? 2.5 year lows roughly, right? In the Rona crash, same exact thing actually. This is pretty shocking here, right? 2.5 years rewind again in the Rona crash. That's interesting. Very, very interesting. In the fall of 2018 crash, we had a 1.5 year rewind in that situation, okay? And this last one is going to shock you, okay? This was a great financial crisis. This one's nasty. Check this out. This is a great financial crisis. We went backwards 6 years, okay? 6 flipping flapjacking years. Yes, we did. That's how bad it got in the great financial crisis. Now, the important thing to remember about the GFC, the great financial crisis, right, is there was a situation where we had some of the biggest financial institutions in the United States of America failing. There was systemic risk across the board, right, and we had every asset get destroyed at the same time, including obviously the stock market and real estate got devastated for years, right? But really the main fear was we were going to lose the entire financial system, and the Fed, the government in general, was very slow to react, because at that time, the government wasn't like they are today, okay, in this decision making, because it was seen as like socialist, essentially, okay, and like this is a socialist move if the government and the Fed steps in and kind of bails everything out. So there was a lot of debate about that. It's very different in the United States of America nowadays. At the sign of any weakness, look what happens. The Fed gets ready to cut rates to zero. They get ready to pump money. The government gets ready to pump money, okay, and so it's not impossible to ever see a great financial crisis situation again, but it's very tough nowadays, because as soon as any weakness is seen out there, what do? Believe me, if unemployment starts to tick up in any significant way this year, the Fed's going to drop rates to zero so fast you wouldn't believe it. You might say, no, they can't do that. Oh man, I've been in this show for long enough to know how they kind of play this game now at this point in time, right? And so that is just kind of something to keep in mind there, and I just thought that was important to show you, okay? And this looks back at all those different crashes. And by the way, I was just kind of looking at the last 20 years in general of the crashes in the NASDAQ, and those are kind of the ones up there, okay? Now, in order to sell a stock, okay, and I want everybody to remember this moving forward for your portfolio, okay? In order to sell a stock, there's really 3 main valid reasons to sell a stock, okay? The first reason is you have to feel like I have better place to put the money, right? If I feel like there's a better place to put the money, then it probably makes sense to put the money there, right? Number two, have to be worried about the long-term future of the company, right? Not something that's going on short-term, not like the next quarter numbers or this first half this year or something like that. It has to be, I have to have real concerns about the long-term of that particular company and make me say, you know what, I got to go ahead and sell this, right? Or the third reason is I got to feel the stock is overvalued, okay? Now, this particular stock we're talking about in this video, it fits these criteria right here, okay? This stock is certainly, I would not put the stock into overvalued territory. No way, okay? You can make an argument that this stock is very fairly valued right now. But as I'm going to go through here, I'm going to show you that I actually have some significant worries about the long-term future of this company. They have some major disruptions going on that they haven't really seen in their past, and it's very, very scary the way you kind of play the story out, okay? And also, I do feel like there's better places to put my money at this point in time that are likely going to outperform this company over time and have a better risk-reward profile, and that's why I'm going to share those two stocks in this video as well, okay? So in regards to the stock, it's a tough one, man. It's a tough one, but the stock I'm considering selling is Google McDougal, okay? This is a stock I have over $22,000 in right now in the public count. It's one of the smallest positions in the public count. It might be the smallest, I don't know. It's going to be close, but this is one I'm considering selling here, okay? And they have a lot going bad for them. So first off, Google has a lot of different businesses, But at the end of the day, what's actually driving the company? There's two real businesses with Google, okay? It's Google Search and it's YouTube. Everything else is a joke compared to those two, okay? This is where they make all their money, Google and YouTube, okay? And both of those businesses have significant problems over the next few years, okay? So I'm sure you guys have heard a lot about ChatGPT recently, right? And this is not just a problem in terms of a long-term competitive, serious threat for Google search that they haven't seen in the past. There's something much deeper here that you got to understand, okay? Google's Bard AI could cost 10x as much as traditional keyword search, okay? And so it's about essentially, if you were to do an AI search versus doing a Google search, it is going to cost Google a fortune. And the other component of this is, how does Google fit into their ads into an AI search, right? That's not a very good experience if you're doing it that way. And so this is why Google called in Sergey Brin, Larry Page, the founders of Google, because this is such a significant threat on two different fronts. One is potentially taking market share away. The other is how much more this could cost Google's business model, which significantly could disrupt, obviously, their net income for this company, okay, and their earnings per share, which obviously affects the stock in a meaningful way. This goes a little bit deeper here. And if you want to pause the video, you can check this out here, okay? More cost for Google AI. And this shows you the percentage of Google queries if it was handled by generative AI, right? And what the cost with that would be if, for every word, essentially, the AI program kind of gives to you out there. And if you spend significant amounts of time with this AI, the more it's going to cost that particular company, whether it's an OpenAI, the ChatGPT, right, or whether it's Google itself, right? And so this is significant, and it looks like Microsoft is making a lot of moves here with OpenAI, and they are basically seeing it as they can take market share from Google in this situation, and obviously it would cause a lot of damage to Google. So this is a significant threat to Google search that we haven't seen, guys. We haven't seen a significant threat to Google search in like the last 20 plus years. Like, as soon as Google got ahead in kind of the early 2000s, right? Like, we haven't seen any significant threat. Other companies try to compete, do this, do that, but it was like Google already had won at that point in time. But I can tell you, this is so disruptive, and that's why Wall Street's starting to price this into the stock, because they're realizing, oh my gosh, it's a market share battle, plus it could weaken their business. And there's almost no scenario where this is going to help Google. Almost no scenario over the long term here, okay? And if you're thinking this is going to hit Google's numbers in the short term, like over the next year, not really. It's really about, what about 3 years out, 5 years out, 7 years out, which is where I'm looking for a stock. And I'm like, there's no scenario where this is going to help Google. There's only scenarios where this is going to hurt them in market share or just adding costs to their business model that they previously didn't have. And so this is significant, man. It's huge. And so why you've seen Google go down recently, it's not just for that, okay? Now, their other big component business that they get major money from is YouTube. And I got some shocking things to kind of show you here, guys, okay? But the bottom line is YouTube has a epic problem actually on its hands right now, okay? And it's this. TikTok and Instagram Reels are a massive threat to YouTube, okay? It doesn't mean people don't use YouTube anymore, but it means essentially market share is being stolen. There's only so much time you have, right, to enjoy content, right? Maybe let's watch my channel. I appreciate everybody that, comes and watches my stock market videos and all that. I appreciate y'all, right? But you only have so much time in a day, right? You could also be watching Netflix right now rather than watching this video. You could be scrolling TikTok 10-second videos right now. You could be scrolling Instagram Reels, right? But instead you're spending time with me, and I appreciate that. But the bottom line is a lot of the younger generation are moving away from a lot of the longer form content, and now they want this like 10-second, 30-second, like quick, on to the next one, I want to watch a pasta recipe, and then I want to watch somebody entertain me, and then I want to watch this, and then I want to watch somebody dancing around, and then I want to watch this, and it's like, this quick action, boom, 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 instead of this long form content that's YouTube. And so a lot of the younger generation has gravitated toward that, and that's what they're used to. So it doesn't mean they deleted YouTube and they're never going to use YouTube in the future, but the bottom line is these are taking massive market share in time and attention away from actual YouTube now at this point in time. And let me show you some shocking numbers here, okay? So this is the last 28 days, and this is the age groups of people that watch my channel, for instance, right? Now my biggest audience is 35 to 44-year-olds. Shout out to the 35 to 44-year-olds that are watching this video right now. I appreciate y'all, okay? That's my biggest group now at this point in time. And this is a major change from where my channel was many years ago, okay? This is pretty shocking. My third biggest age group now at this point in time is 45 to 54-year-olds that watch my channel, okay? That's my third biggest age group. And look at how small the younger generation is. 13 to 17-year-olds is non-existent now at this point in time. Like basically no one under the age of 18 watches my channel anymore. If you're under the age of 18 and you're watching this video right now, like that's insane to me. Like that's literally insane because you're like one of the only people like out there that even watches this channel that's under that age. But look at how weak the numbers are for anybody under 25 now at this point in time, okay? And that's because a lot of these people, they're not coming to watch YouTube. They're spending their time on TikTok and Instagram now and just watching that content and rather than spending an hour or 2 hours watching YouTube videos, they spend an hour or 2 hours on TikTok, scrolling a million different videos in Instagram now at this point in time, okay? And remember these charts right here, because the next chart I'm going to show you is going to be pretty shocking here when you see this. Remember what you're looking at right there, okay? This is what it used to be, okay? This is my lifetime of this. My biggest age group used to be 25 to 34-year-olds by far and away, right? And my third biggest age group used to be 18 to 24-year-olds. 18 to 24-year-olds, right? And look, at least you could see the under 18 crowd back then, right? But the bottom line is this age group is being stolen away by TikTok and Instagram. And that's a significant problem for YouTube long term. That's a significant problem because, if the previous generations like myself, I could spend an hour, 2 hours on YouTube every day pretty much, right? But now, if the newer generation doesn't even come on YouTube, or maybe they come on for 10, 20 minutes and then they're gone, right? Because they'd rather watch TikTok or Instagram Reels, it's a significant long-term problem for YouTube, okay? I'm showing you the numbers right there in front of you. That's a problem, okay? Now, next problem, if that wasn't enough, okay, both their business models being disrupted in a major way over these coming years, this is an issue, okay? The U.S. government is suing Google again, okay? The new U.S. government lawsuit alleges Google has harmed innovation and raised costs for internet users by attempting to monopolize the digital advertising industry. So if there's anything, Google has to look weak for the next several years. Because if Google looks strong, if they look like they don't have any competition for this next few years, then the Department of Justice is going to come down on Google even harder, okay? And when you got the DOJ coming after you, the legal cost of that is astronomically high, right? Plus, there could be potentially huge fines coming. They're going to try to, talk about breakup or something like that. That's probably not super realistic, but it's just kind of like more leverage for the DOJ to have. And so this is a significant issue for Google right now, okay? So let's get this right, okay? Let's get this right. The Department of Justice is coming after Google, okay? Their main search platform that generates most of their money is being disrupted in a huge way over this next few years because of artificial intelligence, okay? And being disrupted on many different fronts from a market share standpoint and a cost standpoint as well, right? Plus, how do you advertise in there? It's being disrupted actually in 3 ways, okay? That's horrible. That's like a trifecta. And then YouTube is having a lot of the younger viewers taken away, and those folks are rather just watch short form content, 10, 30-second videos on TikTok and Instagram. That's a lot of problems there. And that's why I'm looking at this as a long-term investor. I'm like, oh gosh, like there might be better places for my money when I look at all these different problems at this point in time. Okay. Now, in regards to valuation, the valuation doesn't look rich on Google. That's the thing I talked about. Like, it's not like Google's some overvalued stock where it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's trading at this PE or that PE or whatever. No, it's a fair valuation on this company. But given the epic amount of problems over this next few years, you have to start to wonder if in 2024, 2025, 2026, if Google's profitability could actually start to erode and the company could actually have a net income, which is almost hard to even imagine because Google's net income for almost all of eternity has just gone to the moon, right? But it's a possibility that Google's net income, starting maybe even in 2024, could start actually downtrending, which would be shocking because of the cost of the new AI program, plus YouTube having so many of their users being stolen away by TikTok and Instagram. That's something I look at and I'm like, oh gosh, man, this is a significant threat. And then what do you slap on a P ratio at that point in time? If the company has a down net income starting to report, then you're going to have to be valued, like a company that's in decline. And then you're talking about a P ratio of 50, like the 12 to maybe 15 range, 10 to 15 even. And that's a long way from 20, right? And so that's where I start to imagine, I'm like, shoot, could Google actually be dead money? Am I putting my money in a stock that might be dead money for years to go in the future? That's something I'm concerned about, okay? So a couple stocks I'm considering putting the money in if I do make this final decision to sell Google, which we'll see if it happens, okay? One is Meta. So I'm getting it roughly at a very similar P and forward P as Google, but now at this point in time, I don't have nearly as much to worry about. Google's being hunted right now, right? Whereas Meta is hunting. There's a difference, okay? And I'd rather be in the company that's hunting companies than the one being hunted. And so Meta is actually hunting TikTok now at this point in time with Instagram, and they're making up grounds really, really quickly. Like the amount of progress they made on Instagram Reels just over the past 6 to 9 months is extensive, okay? I also look at Meta. They got Zuckerberg there still running that company. And if I'm thinking about a guy who looks really, really hungry right now, it's Zuckerberg. And, Google just doesn't have that anymore. Larry Page, Sergey Brin, those guys are long gone. They're trying to bring them back in to help in this whole situation, but it's like a joke, right? And so Zuckerberg, I think he's if you look at big tech, he's the CEO, founder that's really leading the company, right? Other than maybe Elon, right? Which Elon technically wasn't the founder of Tesla, right? But he's been there since almost the beginning. And so if you look out there, Apple doesn't have that, Google doesn't have that, Microsoft doesn't have that. By the way, Satya Nadella has done an amazing job on Microsoft, and that's part of the competitive pressure that's going to come on Google over this next few years. But I'm looking at it, I'm just like, I think the risk reward is actually a lot better in Meta over this next 3 to 5 years than actually Google. And why should I have $22,000 in Google when I have $22,000 in Meta? I'm likely taking less risk. A lot of the government problems are now behind Meta versus obviously Google's really in quite of a serious situation in regards to government now at this point in time, okay? Another stock I'm seriously considering putting the money in is Amazon stock, okay? Obviously, Amazon trades at much higher P metrics, forward P, whatever you want to look at, versus a Google, but I also think they're going to be much more profitable than any analysts on Wall Street really expect for this year, especially if Rivian comes in and doesn't disappoint their net income, their EPS, okay? But when it comes to Amazon, if I think about their 3 core businesses, there's really no competitive threats there versus Google that's dealing with so many competitive threats on so many different fronts. E-commerce, I own Shopify. Shopify is a great company. They're going to continue to grow, but they're not really necessarily, I wouldn't call them a competitive threat to Amazon, okay? AWS, like Amazon Web Services, there's no competitive threat to that. Microsoft with their cloud product and others, it's just AWS is AWS. Like at the end of the day, they're the creme de la creme. They're going to continue to dominate there. And for their ads business, like, if you want to sell on their e-commerce platform or other places, like their ads just continue to tear it up. So when I look at that, I'm like, there's really no significant threat to any of their 3 core businesses. And it doesn't seem like there's anytime soon. And I think that's one of the reasons Jeff Bezos felt, like he's in a good enough position to step away from this company. He stepped away, was that a year or 2 ago now? I think one of the reasons he did that is he just looked and he's like, our 3 core businesses, which, by the way, Amazon has other businesses as well, Whole Foods, Twitch, all those other businesses, right? But I think he just looked and he's like, our 3 core businesses are set up for the next 10, 20 years. I can retire now at this point in time and go play around on my yacht. And so that's what I see with Amazon there. And I think they're going to obviously way outstrip Google's net income, Google's revenues, everything like that. And so that makes it very attractive. So Amazon's definitely a stock I'm strongly considering to put my money in regards to this. And like I said, it's a very tough situation to try to sell a stock and potentially break up with a stock, right? And especially a company that's not like it's overvalued, but just at the end of the day, I think the risk reward is much better for this next 3 to 5 years in something like a Meta or something like an Amazon versus something like a Google, considering, my gosh, it's just a gauntlet of problems there. And it hurts me, man, because I love Google. I use Google search all the time. I've obviously loved YouTube. I've always loved YouTube, right? But I just got to say, there's significant issues there. And just because I love a product personally, it doesn't mean it's necessarily a great stock for the future. It doesn't really work like that, right? Hey, I eat Tattoo Chef every day. Look at how that stock's turned out. Okay, so just because you personally love a product doesn't mean it's going to be a great stock. Okay, that can be cool, but at the end of the day, like, it doesn't mean just because you like it and you use it. At the end of the day, I don't care about TikTok. I don't care anything about TikTok. But the bottom line is, most of this younger generation, they're glued to that app. They use it all the time, man. They'll put it down. Next time they pick up their phone, 10 seconds later, they're on TikTok again. Just because I don't use it doesn't mean it's not relevant. Like, the bottom line is the newer generations, like, they love that stuff. So anyways, guys, I appreciate y'all. Much love as always. Thanks for joining me. Look, check us out on Patreon. I appreciate everybody that supports in there. That would be pinned comment down there, and see the stocks I am buying in the Patreon portfolio tomorrow. Appreciate y'all and have a great day.